8:17 p.m. at Crestwood Medical ER was supposed to be routine, an ordinary shift of beeping monitors, fluorescent lights buzzing, and the occasional screech of a stretcher rolling over linoleum. Then the automatic doors burst open with a deafening slam, and the chaos arrived. Paramedics barreled in, shouting over one another, a gurney wedged in between them, streaked with blood, torn tactical fabric, and the unmistakable scent of gunpowder and sweat. The man on the gurney was unmistakable, even half-conscious, a Navy SEAL, identified only by the faded trident insignia peeking out from a shredded uniform, each muscle taut with pain, each breath shallow but controlled. Blood streamed in jagged rivulets across his shoulder and flank, seeping through ripped gear as though the fabric itself was failing him. Doctors froze mid-command. Nurses hesitated. Security officers blinked, unsure which protocol to invoke first. The SEAL's eyes snapped open, not confusion, not fear, but pure combat awareness, sharp and immediate. He shoved the oxygen mask aside with a strength that made two paramedics stumble back, grunting against gravity and surprise. "Don't touch me," he roared, a voice low, feral, vibrating through the sterile room. Monitors toppled, an IV pole clanged against the tile. Even the seasoned ER veterans paused. This was not panic. This was the kind of controlled, deadly rage only someone who had stared down war could summon. Flashbacks clawed their way into the sterile air. Explosions in Mosul, the comms tower collapse, ambushes on narrow desert streets, a team pinned, morale fraying, blood coating hands, faces, rifles. Every SEAL in that squad on the brink of death, and in the center, the ghost medic, the one they called Rookie back at the stateside hospital, dragging the injured through rubble, whispering life into the desperate, ignoring the bullets, the mortar blasts, the inferno closing in. Madison had saved more lives than anyone in that ER would ever understand. And now, standing quietly, she had just done it again, without gloves, without protocols, without a hero cape, just 6 whispered syllables. The SEAL's breathing began to slow, a ragged rhythm finding balance in the storm of his body. His hands unclenched, fingers brushing against torn fabric, the pain biting but tolerable in the wake of recognition. Every line of his body softened, every shred of rage dissolved like smoke in the cold fluorescent light. His eyes, once a wildfire of combat fury, locked on Madison's face. You're alive," he murmured, a statement, not a question, voice cracking under the weight of disbelief and relief. The doctors whispered among themselves. One resident, young, eyes wide, muttered, Did she just calm him with words? Even security officers exchanged glances that held confusion and awe. They hadn't seen anything like this. They had seen trauma, they had seen rage, but they never seen a man built for destruction respond to words instead of restraint. The SEAL's loyalty, his training, his memory, everything converged on Madison Carter. She moved closer, hands steady, voice controlled, but soft enough to carry the echo of long-buried desert nights. "I'm here," she whispered. "I've got you." Not to the team, not to the cameras, not to the monitors, just him. The connection was instantaneous, electric, grounding him in the present while recalling the battlefield past. Suddenly, chaos resumed, but shifted. Alarms blared, monitors beeped violently, the paramedics shouted vitals, trying to regain control. The SEAL groaned, half from pain, half from recognition, clutching at his side, the shrapnel and bullet wounds screaming for attention. Yet he did not panic. Madison adjusted his IV, pressed gauze to torn flesh, moved with uncanny precision. He flinched at nothing. He trusted her implicitly. A subtle twist, hidden among the flurry of trauma, was revealed in her touch. Madison recognized the wound patterns, ambush style, mortar fragments, a signature only one classified unit had ever seen executed this way. Her voice barely rose above a whisper, "Not again." And he froze. He knew, he remembered, the mission, the units, the fallen comrades. Her presence, her knowledge, the recognition of details long buried, they were more than just medical expertise. They were history, survival, and trust incarnate. The residents stared, caught between disbelief and awe. The attending physician, a man used to authority unquestioned, tried to assert himself. "Step back, nurse, you're not cleared." Madison ignored him, calm, precise, unshakable. Her hands were steady as she assessed, applied pressure, ensured vitals responded. She didn't just treat him, she anchored him. The SEAL's eyes never left hers. Every flicker of pain, every pulse of fear, every memory he had tried to bury, she held it. "Madison," he whispered again, voice cracking, You saved us. All of us." The room fell silent, not for procedure, not for protocol, for reverence. A man trained to endure torture, captivity, dehydration, starvation, blood loss, unraveled in front of a nurse. Not anyone else. Her. The quiet girl they had dismissed, the overlooked rookie, the ghost medic. Flashbacks sharpened in the fluorescent-lit ER. The room realized the full extent. Not just medicine, miracle under fire, precise knowledge born of blood and sand, a life forged in trauma and loyalty. The SEAL shifted, testing strength, testing life, testing trust. He raised a trembling hand, not in aggression, not in command, but in a gesture that spoke volumes. Recognition, respect, debt, gratitude. The gesture wasn't for the ER staff, the attending physician, or the stunned security. It was solely for Madison Carter. Every medical professional in that room watched in stunned silence as a man who could conquer death saluted a nurse, imperfectly, humanly, reverently. She allowed a brief, controlled smile, her voice low, almost to herself. "You're safe now." The SEAL exhaled, muscles relaxing, yet every ounce of tension anchored in the truth that she had been there before, in far worse conditions, and she had survived. More than that, she had ensured others survived. He traced her gaze, whispered names of those who had not made it, memories too heavy for the uninitiated. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Every glance, every measured motion, every quiet word, they said enough. The ER had changed. The chaos had not dissipated. It had simply acknowledged a new command. A command not issued by rank, badge, or protocol, but by experience, sacrifice, and recognition. Madison Carter, once underestimated, now the center of authority. The SEAL's breathing steadied, the monitors echoed calm, and the room's energy transformed from chaos to awe. This was the first 30 seconds that no one in the ER or watching from the hall would ever forget. Not the pain, not the blood, not the alarms, but the ghost medic whispering 6 syllables and a Navy SEAL halted mid-rage, acknowledging life saved, history preserved, and the quiet power of someone overlooked. The moment the gurney was stabilized in the ER, the SEAL's eyes, still sharp and wary, began to glaze over with memory. Not just pain or survival, the ghosts of a mission no civilian would understand clawed into the fluorescent-lit room. The name Madison Carter had triggered something primal, recognition that went beyond medicine, beyond the sterile walls. And now, slowly, the layers of that mission peeled back like the rags of a shredded uniform. Mosul, August 17, 2018. A routine comms relay checkpoint turned nightmare. 6 men, trained to endure anything, pinned under mortar fire, ambushes calculated down to the meter. The SEAL squad had been everything, the elite tip of an unstoppable force, until a single misstep, a misread signal, and chaos erupted. He remembered the mortar blast, the concussion shaking bones, his ears ringing with static and screams. Blood coated his gloves, mixing with sand and sweat, and the radio crackled, "Command is down. Repeat, command is down. Evac impossible." Every eye in the team shifted. Panic was a luxury they couldn't afford. And then Madison. Rookie. They'd called her that in the stateside hospital, whispered about her behind carts and scrub sinks. Second-year civilian nurse, they'd said, not combat ready. Yet here she was, kneeling over the first casualty with hands steady as steel, weaving through chaos, improvising tourniquets, stabilizing airways, whispering commands like she was born to do it. The SEAL's jaw clenched at the memory. Pain not just in his shoulder, but deep in the chest, alongside guilt. Because not everyone had made it. The mission had taken its toll. Names once alive now carved into his memory, each a silent accusation. You survived. They didn't. He could recall one teammate, a hulking figure, pinned under debris, gasping for breath. Madison had crawled over rubble, ignoring shrapnel slicing the air, ignoring the mortar blasts to reach him. She'd applied pressure, dragged him to a safer corridor, and whispered 6 syllables that would mark him for life. The same syllables that had quelled his rage in the ER just moments ago. Twist. Madison's identity had been systematically erased from every record. To the world, she was a civilian nurse, overlooked and underestimated. But in the field, she was something else entirely. Highly trained, meticulously skilled, the kind of operative that command kept secret because revealing her skill set would compromise operations. And yet, she had chosen to stay. When orders came to evacuate, she had remained, alone, under fire, ensuring that every soldier she could save survived. The SEAL could remember the weight of her hands, her calm voice cutting through chaos. Move him now, no hesitation, watch your flank. Every memory brought another revelation. The ambush wasn't random. Enemy deception had lured half the convoy into a kill zone. They had thought they were prepared, but the enemy had adapted. And in the confusion, one man, someone he had trusted, had failed to hold the line. That betrayal, subtle yet devastating, had cost lives. The SEAL's eyes burned at the recollection. But Madison? She had anticipated it. Her experience in training, hidden, erased, had allowed her to compensate for every flaw, every misstep, every death. The room around him, the ER buzzing with life and monitors, faded. He could hear mortar shells again, smell the dust and blood. Each name of the fallen, whispered in cadence with her hands applying pressure, seemed to echo in the sterile room. The horror wasn't just the battle, it was the weight of responsibility, the knowledge that one wrong move could have erased them all. And yet she hadn't faltered, not once. Every decision precise, every movement calculated. She was a phantom of skill and courage, a ghost medic whose existence had saved them all. His breathing became ragged as more truth surfaced. The SEAL had been forced to leave one behind, not due to lack of effort, but because Madison had ordered him to prioritize the others. The betrayal wasn't intentional, but necessary. He could still see the face of the man, pleading, trusting, fading, as Madison carried 3 others through collapsing rubble, ignoring every instinct to self-preserve. That man's last gaze hadn't been anger, it was faith. Faith that someone, somehow, would survive. And she had. She had kept that faith. Twists piled upon twists. Madison's role had been completely classified. The SEAL's memories, vivid and raw, confirmed that without her, none of the remaining squad would have made it to extraction. The weight of it pressed against him like a vice. And yet, she had returned quietly to the United States, assumed civilian roles, gone unnoticed. For 5 years he had mourned, assumed she was gone, a casualty, lost to war like so many others. And now, here she was, whispering those same syllables, resurrecting not just him, but the memory of their survival. Every detail of that night, the ambush, the deception, the injuries, played like a film across his mind. Madison had improvised medical procedures no civilian nurse could have known, navigated the terrain like a map etched into muscle memory, and maintained control while bullets tore the world apart. He remembered the weight of her pack, heavier than any rifle, full of supplies she had prioritized for others, leaving herself exposed. The thought of it now made his chest tighten. the shame, the gratitude, the overwhelming relief, it crashed over him in waves. And then the betrayal, the hidden, agonizing betrayal, unfolded in clarity. One of their trusted informants had tipped the enemy, turning a routine extraction into a massacre. The SEAL's eyes narrowed, rage threatening to spike again. But Madison had mitigated it, had seen it coming in ways none of them had imagined, and she had done it silently, invisibly, without recognition, without thanks. The scale of her sacrifice, her courage, her competence, her unrecognized heroism drenched the SEAL in a cocktail of emotion he hadn't felt in years: guilt, awe, love, and unrelenting relief. The room's ambient noise returned slowly, the beeps and shuffles, but the SEAL remained suspended in the gravity of revelation. He could feel the ER walls, yes, but he could also feel the ghosts of that night, the weight of dust and mortar, and Madison's hand steady and unshakable on his shoulder, saving him again. His throat tightened. You were never a rookie," he rasped, voice rough from pain and memory. You were always the one keeping us alive." She only nodded. Words were necessary. Actions always had said enough. Flashbacks merged with the present. He saw every fallen comrade, every heartbeat she had preserved, every split-second decision that had turned certain death into survival. The betrayal, the ambush, the near wipes, it was all revealed in layers, each one more shocking than the last. And in the center of it, Madison remained unbroken, unrecognized, unseen by the world, yet utterly indispensable. The SEAL exhaled, gripping her hand gently, a silent acknowledgement that he could not voice. She had carried their lives, their honor, and their memories when no one else could. He could see the invisible scars of the mission reflected in the fluorescent light, the tremor in his hands, the tightness in his jaw, and he understood fully that the rookie nurse everyone had dismissed had been the singular force that had prevented a complete annihilation. Shockwaves radiated through him. He realized now what he hadn't understood for years: the mission, the sacrifice, the betrayal, the survival. It was all tied to her. Not a title, not a rank, not a badge, but her presence, her skill, her courage. His gaze locked on Madison, unwavering, even as he tried to breathe past the pain and disbelief. I thought you were dead," he whispered, voice cracking. We all... The sentence broke under the weight of memory, grief, and the impossible realization that she had returned. Twist. Another revelation, quieter this time. One of the men he had mourned, the one he thought had been lost, had survived in secret because of Madison's quick improvisation and tactical foresight. Not everyone in the ER would understand. Not even the SEAL's own commanding officers had grasped it, but he did. And now, under the harsh lights, with monitors beeping and chaos reduced to a whisper, the SEAL realized the truth of survival, heroism, and unrecognized sacrifice in a way that shook him to his core. The memory of sand, smoke, blood, and Madison's steady hands merged with the present, her whisper, her gaze, her skill. Every ER professional in the room, watching the SEAL transform from combat-frenzied rage to recognition, saw nothing, but he saw everything. The mission, the ambush, the betrayals, the ghosts, all tied together in the quiet authority of the woman he had called Rookie. He exhaled, a mix of relief, rage, and awe. We wouldn't have made it without you." Madison simply adjusted the IV, hands calm, eyes unshaken. No words, not needed. Her presence alone carried the weight of a mission 5 years old, of lives saved, of secrets buried, and of truths that had finally resurfaced. The SEAL's pulse began to steady, a rhythm not entirely medical, but emotional. Trust, relief, and the reverence of having seen a true hero in action, unmasked and undeniable. The ER doors burst open again, this time not with the familiar screech of gurneys and alarms, but with the cold precision of bureaucracy, sharp footsteps, clipped voices, and an urgency that didn't fit the chaos of trauma medicine. Captain Jackson Rhodes, SEAL team lead, barely stabilized, still trembling from the lingering memory of past fires, looked up, eyes narrowing. His instincts screamed danger, but not from visible threats. Something deeper, more insidious had entered the room, and there she was, Nurse Cassandra Hale, ghost medic, calm as ever, moving with a precision that suggested she was reading not just the patient, but the atmosphere itself, calculating every potential breach in seconds. The fluorescent lights seemed to sharpen, shadows stretching long across the ER floor as government liaisons and intelligence operatives stepped in, briefcases clutched, eyes flicking over monitors and charts. Rhodes tensed. The moment wasn't medical, it was political. Classified mission data had resurfaced, someone wanted access, and the chain of command was fragile, fragile as a cracked rib. Hale's hands moved over his wounds, steadying IVs, checking vitals, all while the undercurrent of tension ticked like a bomb in the room. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Stay calm, eyes forward, don't move until I say so." Shock rippled through the medical staff, whispers bouncing off sterile walls. Who was she? A nurse, they had assumed, rookie, civilian, but her authority, unspoken yet undeniable, commanded attention. Rhodes' pulse, once spiking with fear, began to sync with her rhythm. He trusted her instinctively because he had lived through fire with her, under mortar, bullets, and betrayal. And now, under the harsh ER lights, that instinct told him this wasn't just about survival, it was about control, about safeguarding a secret that could topple careers, erase history, or worse. Suddenly, a name crackled through a secure radio. "Hale, do you copy?" A voice familiar, buried under layers of classified operations, once thought dead. Rhodes froze. He knew that voice. Someone from their last mission, someone who should have been gone, but apparently had survived. Watching, waiting. Suspense gripped the room. Hale's eyes narrowed, just the faintest flicker betraying recognition. She didn't panic. She never did. She simply nodded, murmured instructions to Rhodes, and secured the monitors. Every movement was precise, deliberate, and designed to minimize chaos while maximizing control. Flashback pulses ran through Rhodes' mind. Hale under fire, improvising, saving lives, never recognized. The SEALs who survived owed her more than memory, more than medals. And here she was again, ghostly, calm, silent, commanding authority without a badge or a title that anyone outside their circle would recognize. But inside Rhodes, inside the ER now, every resident, every attending felt it. Hale was the line between catastrophe and control. Every wrong move, every misjudged order would have been disaster. But she was there, hands guiding, mind calculating, heart steady. A shadow shifted near the ER entrance, someone from the past mission, alive, eyes scanning the room, assessing, waiting. Rhodes caught it, heart thundering. Hale noticed too, without turning her head. A subtle nod, and suddenly the entire ER became a chessboard. She positioned the patients, adjusted IVs, instructed residents, every action a shield, every word a barrier, creating order from chaos. The tension was palpable, a mix of awe and fear. Even the government liaison hesitated, realizing this was no ordinary medical emergency. This was a battlefield reborn under fluorescent lights. Rhodes's emotions surged, gratitude, fear, respect, disbelief. He could see the past mission in every line of Hale's face, every subtle movement. And then the unthinkable. A former team member stepped forward, alive, bearing news that could destabilize everything. A betrayal or a warning? The room held its breath. Hale's voice, calm, authoritative, cut through. "Step back. Let the patient breathe. Everyone, listen." No one dared disobey. Not the doctors, not the liaison, not even security. Her calm became a lifeline, her authority unassailable. Rhodes, chest heaving, eyes wet, finally straightened. "Ma'am," he rasped, you never were just a nurse." He moved slowly, every motion deliberate, trembling, and offered the most intimate acknowledgement a soldier can give, an unspoken salute. It wasn't protocol, it wasn't for the cameras, it was respect, awe, gratitude. Every doctor, nurse, staff member watching in silent shock realized this quiet woman, overlooked for years, was the true hero. She had carried lives, secrets, missions, and survived, and she commanded respect not by title, but by action. The ER seemed to vibrate with tension and emotion simultaneously. Monitors beeped softly, footsteps hushed. Hale remained calm, adjusting Rose's pulse, checking his vitals, whispering directions. Every movement communicated authority, competence, and control. The former team member at the door hesitated, recognizing her presence, understanding without words that she was in command here, even in a world of bureaucracy and modern threats. Suddenly, an encrypted tablet lit up with classified data, mission details resurfacing, timelines, identities previously buried. Hale glanced at it, flicked her gaze to Rhodes. Her hands moved swiftly, decisively, covering the patient, guiding the residents, neutralizing the immediate bureaucratic threat without confrontation. A subtle warning, a soft but firm directive, and the agents realized the patient's safety, secret history, was non-negotiable. Hale's authority was absolute. Rhodes exhaled, the weight of past and present converging. He finally understood fully why she had been called a ghost medic. Not because she hid, because she existed in a realm between life and death, war and civilian space, recognized only when her presence was essential. And here, in the heart of the ER, she reclaimed that role effortlessly. The staff's awe was palpable. Shock, disbelief, respect. Every emotion collided in a silent chorus. Hale adjusted Rose's blanket, smoothed his gown, her voice soft. "You're stable, safe, monitor steady. Trust me and breathe." The patient's eyes, filled with emotion, locked onto hers. "Never left. You saved us," he whispered. Staff and visitors watching from the periphery were compelled by the authority, calm, and courage displayed. Every eye realized she had done more than her title allowed. She had saved lives, preserved history, and confronted modern threats with the same resolve as in the deserts of Mosul. The ER finally exhaled. Monitors beeped rhythmically. Bureaucracy paused. The ghost medic stood firm. Rhodes offered a final salute, trembling, a recognition of heroism unseen by most, understood only by those who survived, and witnessed silently by the rest. Hale accepted it, a nod, a quiet acknowledgement that spoke louder than words. The tension broke. Awe replaced fear, shock gave way to comprehension. The narrative of the mission, the heroism, the quiet authority of a ghost medic, and the modern threat, every piece aligned in one indelible moment. Audience engagement became natural, the story reaching beyond the walls of the ER. The silent hero, the unrecognized operative, the ghost medic, Cassandra Hale, was revealed, not by rank, not by medals, but by action. Her calm, decisive, courageous presence had ensured survival, commanded respect, and reminded everyone watching that heroism often hides in plain sight. The final seconds in the ER froze. Rhodes's hand rested lightly on hers, an acknowledgement of shared history, trust, and reverence. Staff, security, and government liaisons remained in awe, silent witnesses to the story that had unfolded in real time, a story of courage, sacrifice, identity, and the quiet power of a true hero revealed at the perfect moment. Every heartbeat, every blink, every whispered instruction left an imprint deeper than any badge could convey. And then the subtle emotional call to the audience. If this story resonated, if the courage, sacrifice, and quiet authority moved you, remember to engage. Comment your location, share your thoughts, hit like, subscribe, and keep the memory of silent heroes alive. Cassandra Hale didn't survive to be recognized, she survived to save others, and now the world watching could bear witness, forever changed by her actions, her calm, her authority, and her unyielding presence.